is 30, flirty, only with Jared, and thriving.
Because she's a married lady now.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to, with that being said, a Roux Fitness podcast. We have with us a special guest today, Miss Claire
Barry Thomas.
Barry Thomas. I didn't know what we were going with. We have a lot of people that keep maiden names in here, so it's 2020. I have no idea.
Claire Barry Thomas.
That's why I wanted to
Is
check.
it hyphenated?
It's hyphenated.
It's hyphenated.
Barry Thomas.
Yes.
And is Jared Thomas Barry?
I wish.
Claire is one of our nutrition coaches. You are also a
OG Roux Member.
OG Roux Member, but also a counselor.
Yes.
What are your credentials, Claire?
I am a PLPC, so I'm a provisional license right now, working on licensure for the next probably year left. So I do school counseling, and then I have a small private practice too.
And who do you counsel? Is it mostly
Mostly
youths?
children. Mostly the kids.
Mostly the kids. All right. And you all know her, the COO of Roux Fitness and COO and Director of Nutrition, Miss Emily Schneller. And I am your mayor of Rouville, Bradley Schneller. So, Em, what are we talking about today?
Well, I just wanted to invite Claire on to talk about her journey with nutrition and nutrition coaching now, and specifically talk about something that we strive to achieve as part of stacked coaching. And we'll get into what we mean by this, but turning people from Priuses into Hummers. But before we get into that, I just wanted to take a step back and talk about Claire's journey. So how long have you been a member at Roux, Claire?
I think 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
And Roux is 7, so
6 years, yeah.
Serious OG.
Met your husband here.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yes.
going with next.
Thanks to Bradley.
You're welcome. Can you tell everybody how that went down real quick?
You played matchmaker?
Yes,
Tell
he
everybody how that went
did.
down. This is a good story.
I told Bradley that there was a cute guy at the gym that I liked, and Bradley said, who is it? So I told him who it was, and then he waited outside of the bathroom one day for Jared to come out of the bathroom after changing, and he told Jared, hey, that girl Claire over there likes you.
Bradley's
then-
super direct if you didn't already
Yes,
know.
he didn't tell me that he told him. Another coach overheard. So this was like all high school. The other coach then tells me, hey, by the way, Jared knows now. And I'm like, what?
Whoops.
Well, guess what? It worked.
It did.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, we did a run one day, and afterwards, I think I messaged him and I said something about, or he said something about oh, I was going to suggest loser buys dinner, but I was afraid I would lose. And I was like, well, I lost, so how about I buy drinks? And then we went out for drinks.
Oh,
That was
I
it.
love it.
All because of a run at Roux.
I love it.
Isn't it super cool that because of this gym and this business that people are married and babies are born? And I just think that is one of the coolest things about what we do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool. Talk to me about your journey with nutrition and how you got interested in all of that.
So it all started with you, I think, in Roux. And Jared actually did one of the first challenges that you did. And after he did it, I kind of joined in and started as well. And so I think nutrition has been something that I've thought about for a long time before Roux. But coming into Roux and then doing some of the challenges, after every time I did a challenge, I would see a new habit stick. Okay, now we've turned off the TV when we're eating dinner. And that would, be the habit that would stick after the challenge. And then the next time it would be okay, now we're putting our food on our plate. Not just eating it out of a bowl on the table. So we started to see those changes, and I started to realize just how important it was to me. And then kind of reached out about doing PN and started learning more about nutrition, and just love like helping people. And I think that goes with my counseling profession, and then also nutrition coaching. I tell people all the time, they go really hand in hand.
I was going to ask you, how much crossover is there between your nutrition clients and counseling, and then and like, have you taken any of your nutrition stuff over to your counseling clients?
So I've talked actually with my supervisor about that, because I think if I do, I'd be more interested in working with adults in counseling on nutrition,
right?
Versus nutrition coaching. So they definitely have their differences,
right?
And they have a lot of crossover too.
Psychologically, there's a lot of crossover, I imagine.
Absolutely.
And habit building as well. So.
Well, that's kind of what the PN2 certification is all about. The PN1 is kind of the science about nutrition and helping people build habits, and the PN2 is basically all psychology and helping people make those behavior changes. So I agree. I think that it is a major, correlation with the two skills that you have. And yeah, what a value to your clients.
Well, and when I hear you talk too, sometimes I'm like, that sounds like counselor.
Well, people call me like their food therapist, and therapists are extremely valuable, and I'm not saying that I am a therapist, but I think that when people struggle with food and eating, it is 99% of the time, it's not just about the food. You have to bring in those other things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about your journey, like you specifically with nutrition, and kind of the arc that you have made.
So when I started at Roux, and I guess the earliest that I can go back, unless you can remember more, is sort of when we went through this whole fad of doing bulletproof coffee and intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm. It's come such a long way.
Yeah. And we all kind of knew like it was a fad, but we all like really hopped on board with it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
The people pushing it were very convincing.
Yeah, there was research, and
there was research, and there still is. There still is.
And I figured out now that things work differently for my body.
Yep.
So during that time of doing intermittent fasting and seeing results and doing bulletproof coffee, I lost weight, but then I also lost my period. And so that was kind of eye-opening to me. And I, at that point, was like, okay, what's the research on that? Do people who intermittent fast sometimes lose their periods? And there was research about women losing their periods intermittent fasting. So I decided not, to do that anymore, and to kind of shift. But in the shifting, I think I never really shifted away from the idea that carbs were bad and fat was good. And so I still had a very high fat diet, but not intentionally, and not really knowing that was what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I gained weight and felt, okay.
Right.
And was working out in the gym, and was maintaining that kind of lifestyle for a while until I decided
until
that it was time for me to look a little bit more in on my habits as a coach, and become a little bit more aware of what I was doing and thinking about that. And so then I started coaching with you, and that was in May or June.
Right
of
after
this
we
year.
got back from COVID. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in May.
So
which in and of itself, I think is so valuable that you recognize, like, I am a nutrition coach. I've been interested in all of this all along. I know a lot, it wasn't a lack of knowledge for sure, but it goes to show you that everybody, can have value from coaching, being
Absolutely.
coached.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the things that I would come to you with, I was like, hey, I know that I'm doing this and I just need to say it out loud, because once I say it out loud, then I'm not going to do it anymore, because I've admitted, to myself and everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think
that's huge.
that reminds me of the time I told you, I was like, sometimes it's hard to read the label from inside the bottle, and you're like, I don't know what that means, but I'll think about. But it's true. Like, coaching just gets that outside perspective. And I think that that's all you needed. Yeah.
Hey, Drew Brees has a coach.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think, conversation we were having earlier, like, it's great to have coaches and people helping professions in multiple ways in your life, whether that's a physical therapist, a nutrition coach, like we all need that fitness coach, right?
Yeah.
So starting in May, I started on my nutritional coaching journey as a client, and saw a lot of changes, and was losing weight and gaining muscle, and keeping my period.
Oh.
And I was like,
That's solid.
why is this happening?
How about that?
And I think a lot of it has to do with actually doing what was working for my body, and looking at what was working for my body.
Let's talk about macros. Because originally you were like, I don't know about this. Like, I don't know that I want to do this. And I helped you reframe that. Like, in order to coach people on this, I think that it's super valuable to spend some time doing it yourself. So, like, let's just try it and treat it like an experiment and see what you see. What was that experience like? Because you went into it skeptical.
I went into a lot of things skeptical.
Right.
And the experience has been eye-opening, and it also has been like very balanced. Like, I've been able to see the balance with macros that I didn't know was possible.
Meaning you thought that it was some sort of like rigid
Restrictive.
thing that you couldn't like go out to eat or.
Yeah. And so I think, the word restricted does come to mind, right? Like, I was thinking it was like this restricted thing. And when I started doing it, I realized like, oh, I can fit this thing in that I really want and enjoy. And like we've kind of talked about before, like I can enjoy it and not feel guilty about it, not feel bad about it. It works in my day, and I know that it's, working for me in the long term.
I fit 3 glasses of Barolo. That is a red wine from Italy. Sorry, bougie. I fit 3 glasses of red wine and a piece of nothing bundt cake for my birthday during the hurricane into my macros on Wednesday. Like, I had prepared for it. I accounted for it. I knew like it was going to be high in carbs, and then the cake was going to have a little bit more fat than I'm used to. So I kind of had to conserve leading up to it, and I was able to fit it. I only went over my calorie target that day by 30. Felt pretty strong about it. So, I mean, it does allow a lot of possibilities to stay on path, whatever that path might be for you, while still enjoying life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the piece too that when we've talked about talk about macros, that's important, and especially with the work that we're all doing with nutrition coaching, is the habit building and building simple foods and the whole foods. And because you can make anything work with macros, but like we've talked about, it's so important to have those already set when you're going into.
We care about your outside, but we care about your inside more.
You can lose weight by being in a caloric deficit and eating McDonald's, but that is not going to do anything for your blood lipid panel and your cholesterol. And it's about supporting your overall health too, not just your body composition.
The other thing that I think is important with macros, and I don't think people realize about it, but the counting of macros, it's very, and we talked about it, scientific based, it's evidence based. You are collecting evidence, okay? You are looking at it from a scientific lens, gaining feedback, and then making the changes that you need to improve upon that. And I mean, you can't do that any other way. Yeah. And it's not something that needs to be done all the time, but
it's a really good exercise.
It is a really good exercise. Yeah. And it's a really good exercise to do it for a prolonged period of time. And by prolonged period of time, how long can you do it for how many months in a row?
Yeah. So Claire, what do you think about carbs now?
I love carbs. I was telling somebody the other day, like, we had a conversation about just carbs and the mentality that still is around carbs. And I was like, listen, this morning I had for breakfast a banana, oatmeal with raisins, and then I had rice at lunch, a sweet potato at dinner, and I really wanted to have a s'more for dessert because it was really cold outside and we wanted to cook s'mores. And so all of that fit. Right. And I was just like, that seems like a lot. She was like, wow, that seems like a lot of carbs. I'm like, it's not. Like, it fits within what
It's not when you measure it out.
Right. Yeah.
When it's not just a free-for-all at the food trough.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
And it's being intentional around the choices that I'm making with carbs.
Yes. Love it. Carb is not another 4-letter word. Good. My other question okay. So this is what I wanted to say. We have a private Facebook group for all of the Stacked coaching members, and Claire posted a picture of like her lunchbox, and I was like, girl, that is not a lunchbox. That is a tote bag of food. I love the prepare and execute habit that you have. But it's a significant amount of food. Tell me about that and having the volume of food that you are eating now in relationship to what your body and body fat percentage and muscle mass is doing now.
Yeah. So the other day I was at my lowest body fat percentage, highest muscle mass, and have been experimenting with carb cycling still, and have found that really successful in how my body has responded to carbs as well.
How many calories you eat a day? Do you know?
Depends on the day.
It does.
If she's cycling.
On your low day?
So here's an interesting thing.
Oh.
I actually don't keep the number in my head.
Right.
Because for me, I would hyper focus on that number. So I just keep it in my tracker.
Right.
And
okay, that's cool.
I just look at my tracker, and that's how I keep track of it.
Yeah, that's a good tip for people out there. Everybody's different. Everybody needs to approach this differently, and that I like that a lot.
Okay, so when Claire kind of realized this, I'm at my lowest body fat percentage ever. I am at my highest muscle mass. She sent me a photo, and she was like, I feel great in the gym. Like I think you were doing pull-ups, and you were like, they've never felt better.
I did 10 rounds of 10
There you go.
unbroken pull-ups.
Woo, girl.
I've never.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ever.
So you are supporting that muscle mass with the carbs. Like carbs are needed in an intentional way to build muscle. So I love that. But you sent me a text and you said, I have moved from Prius to Hummer. So I want to break that down because it's something that we have been saying a lot, like hashtag Hummer or whatever.
We might have to change the analogy though, since Hummer just came out with an electric Hummer.
Oh well. Yeah, because now it's
Let's
like
call it a G-Wagon. Prius versus a
G-Wagon.
G-Wagon.
Okay, so the idea, or Claire, you want to break that down for people?
Well, I'll let you break it down, but I
Okay.
wouldn't mind being an electric Hummer because I don't want to like pollute, either. So I was thinking about
Claire
that
is
earlier.
environmentally
All right, break it
conscious.
down. Break it down for the people in the back.
Okay, so I think that this is a good place to start. Okay, and hopefully she won't mind that I talk about this. So my mother, who is now a Stacked coaching client, she made a bunch of money doing a multi-level marketing diet thing in her 30s called Cambridge. She lost weight herself, had this really inspiring
Is that like
story.
those that protein shakes that all the doctors are pushing on people right now?
I don't know specifics,
That's
but
a joke.
I do know that she lost 30 pounds in 30 days, had this really inspiring story, and then sold it to a bunch of people. And I also know that while she was successful doing that, it completely messed with her hormonal health and her ability to lose weight in the future. Okay. So what that did,
Go ahead. How many calories was she eating when it was super low?
like 1,000, like
Right.
really low. She turned her body into a Prius. Okay. So when you think about a Prius, an electric car, the idea is you can go a long way with very little fuel, right? But when we're translating that to our bodies, that is not the goal, because the goal is to consume as much food as you can and be efficient with your body's metabolism and go through that fuel quickly, right? So that is the idea of moving from Prius status to Hummer status. And that's what Claire did. She systematically changed her body from, I mean, you're probably eating more calories now.
Sure.
Yes, you definitely
I
are.
am.
You definitely are eating more because we have the data to prove it. than you were before, and yet you weigh less. It's about optimizing the way that nutrition is fueling your body and supporting that muscle growth. And by the way, resistance training is a key part of this puzzle. If you don't resistance train, it's not a strategy for you. But the idea is that we're slowly increasing the number of calories that you could eat over time, and your body is adapting and learning to use that fuel, and Hummer status is unlocked.
Yes, it was amazing.
Isn't that fun?
It was so much fun, and it is so much fun. Like the energy that I feel. I mean, I went out for a 3-mile jog one day and ended up going 6, but my body just was like ready. It was just like like it just needs to go. And I was like, okay, go. And then I think it's also important in that realm to also just recognize that rest is also important.
Yes.
And I do that also. As we talked about carb cycling on days that actually are rest days, so that I have
the opportunity
to
eat more.
Right.
Because that can be hard too.
I want to underscore too that this is very intentional, like, stuff. We're not suggesting just to eat more carbs for everybody.
Yeah, I want to throw this out there because I had found out about carb cycling 7 years ago, right when we opened the gym. And I nowhere had the amount of information and knowledge that I had now. I read like a couple of blog posts in it and listened to a coach from another gym at the time, and it's like, oh, okay, so I'm just going to eat a lot of like peanut butter jelly sandwiches at night and pizza, and ate a ton of bread and stuff like that. But I had no rhyme or reason why I was doing any of it. Right. And so I had my diet, and then I was just adding a shit more food to it. And I got fat.
Yeah.
So
is that kind of like when you did carb backloading too?
Oh, that's what it was. Carb backloading. And that was a mess. Yeah. That was a mess. But I tried it.
Yeah, it's a good experiment.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes to, the point of like being intentional, right? Like I was being coached through this process too, of finding out what works for my body. And you really have to go through that and be able to track to see what is working. Yeah. And have that data and that progress to show.
I've also had a couple clients where we attempted carb cycling and then backed off of it. So it's not a strategy, it's not for everyone. Yeah. So.
And it could be doing good things for your body, but like just from a
she didn't necessarily gain weight. It just wasn't reaching the goals that we set out that it was going to do. And we found out that just eating a certain target every day worked out better. So
I've done the same with 2 clients. We've started it and stopped because it didn't work for them.
Yeah. But this is an experiment. It's a journey. So
yeah. But that's why I think one of the things that we do well as stacked coaching coaches is using information to make informed decisions. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We have a bunch of tools in our toolbox that we pull out when it makes sense. We'll try things, and if they don't work, okay, like we don't have to try that anymore.
I want to go back to Claire's tote bag of food. Okay. Do you plan out all your meals the day before?
Yes.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so and I tell this to my clients too, because it does take time to build the habit around planning and executing, and that preparation, right? And that's key. So I typically like the night before, and I don't do it like a week before. I'll just do it the night before.
Right.
And so I will decide like, okay, tomorrow night for dinner we're gonna have this, and I'll put it in my tracker, and then whatever leftovers were from the night before, I might have already put that in and weighed that. And then I'm like, okay, what do I want for breakfast? And some things have stayed pretty much the same. So those are things like Greek yogurt I love. And apparently I was telling Emily before too, I used to get like these really crazy like ulcers in my mouth, and I thought it was from fruit, but now I just think it was like I didn't have enough probiotics or micronutrients. And now that I'm eating Greek yogurt every day, I eat it like every day now too.
I eat it every day.
And I miss the days that I don't have it, which is like maybe once a week. But it's done incredible things. So Was that answering the question?
Yeah, so the night before, you plug in all of your meals for the day before into MyFitnessPal?
I do.
For the next day, yeah.
Yeah.
What does that do for you psychologically?
I don't have to think about it
Right.
during the day. And I don't have time to think about it during the day. So being in a school environment and not being able to know when I'm going to be able to sit down and log something, if I have it already set to go, I'm like, this is great. And I might put in an extra couple of snacks, and then I might play around with that at the end of the day. And that's kind of where I'm at with having it ready for the day, just is like, I don't have to think about it.
One of the things that I love about that is a lot of people get hung up on decision making, right? And what am I going to eat for lunch? How is this going to work? But when you plan it out the night before, you make that next day way less stressful. If you don't have to think about what you're going to eat, how's it going to work in your macros, all that other kind of stuff, then you take away the choice. You already made your decision, and there's a lot less stress. And this isn't for everyone, but for someone like Claire, who's at a school, doesn't have time to go home like me and eat lunch and have a flexible schedule, it works out really well.
Well, I was even worried yesterday. I was a poll commissioner, right? And we worked from 5:15 till 8 o'clock or 8:30 the whole day.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, how am I going to make this work? I just packed everything. I planned it the night before, and I packed all the things that would help me, and had Jared was so kind and made dinner at home for when I got home. But you can make it work even in those like really stressful situations and environments. And I was just intentional about it the night before. And I think too, sometimes when we think about preparation, we think like, oh, the whole week has to be done.
Right. I see everybody doing all that meal prep on Sunday, but that's overwhelming.
I don't do that either.
That can be overwhelming.
I only do it the night before.
Same.
And so I might have, when I go shopping for the weekend, I don't even plan like what meals I'm going to have that week.
Either.
I just pick some proteins, some veggies, and then throw it together that day.
Same approach, exactly.
Yeah, good nutrition does not have to be complicated. Okay, it can be very simple.
And I think when you're counting macros, it's even more valuable if it is simple.
Yeah, a lot of people want to get hung up, and I think the people that struggle with macro counting are they're not eating simple foods. They're trying to make a ton of recipes with sauces and stuff like that, which not only complicates it, but even if you are creating a recipe, plugging it all into MyFitnessPal, doling out the servings, it is not exact.
Mm-hmm.
So the exactness is where it works. So I don't know why. I got a little bit of roll there. Yeah, got a little soapbox there. But no, I mean, I love it because I think planning, preparation, execution is tremendous for setting up success. And like I said, that is not something for me. I like to fly by the seat of my pants, but I have
with all things.
But I have this schedule that allows me to fly by the seat of my pants where.
Well, also you say that, but like you literally have the same thing for lunch every single day.
Yeah, even Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
I literally eat the same thing every day of my life.
You're a Hummer now too, baby.
Yeah, I eat a lot of calories.
He walked in yesterday. He was like, I'm on my third dinner.
I ate 3 dinners last night.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. And so, and I mean, in terms of like the preparation, I've tried different things where I've moved my meals around and try to eat breakfast because I am a faster. And I still fast, even though the fact that I eat a ton of carbs. And the act of eating breakfast is difficult for me. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe because I fasted for so long that it's tough for me to eat breakfast. But some days I do. Some days I don't. What I love about not eating breakfast is that I get to eat 3 dinners at night. One of my biggest fears, I say this, this is confessional time, y'all. One of my biggest fears is I will finish eating dinner and I'll have no food left and I'm still hungry.
That's a biggest fear?
Your third dinner or the first dinner?
The first
dinner. So like I'll finish eating my first dinner. I'm done for my macros of the day and I'm still hungry. That's a nightmare scenario. But it's good to practice.
On the flip side, that might stress somebody out. Like, look, after dinner, having like 25 grams of protein and 30 carbs. And
I finished dinner last night.
That could be stressful.
And I had 60-something grams of protein left, 90-something carbs left. So it was game time.
So 3 dinners later, he had hit.
Yeah, I made a smoothie. Then I ate an ice cream cone, and then I made a sandwich. Mm-hmm. And then I'm good. I hit everything on the mark. Boom, boom, boom.
Unicorn Day.
Unicorn Day. So
Is that what those days are called?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
They have a name. It's a unicorn. Good. Anything else, Claire?
I don't think so. Is there anything else?
I think we.
no, I love it. We laid it out there
Rocked it.
perfectly. So Emily, if someone's trying to become a Hummer, they think they might be a Prius, or they might just be stuck running out of gas. What should they do?
Well, you can go to www.stackedcoaching.com now and book a call. We will go over kind of your history and what you've tried before and what you're looking for, what your goals are, and we will tell you more about our program and how we can help.
Nice.
Set you up with a stacked coach like Claire.
I want to end on this real quick. What is your favorite thing to eat that you eat on a daily basis? Like, what thing do you look forward to? Is it your Greek yogurt?
She already said
Yeah, the Greek yogurt with blueberries and Catalina Crunch.
What's that?
It's like
Granola.
It's kind of like
Wait,
a granola.
I think I got the same thing.
Yeah, but it has a higher protein. But I look
Oh, I
forward
don't
to
have that.
everything though. Like when Sarah posted about her doing a little dance for her lunch, like that's how I feel every time I eat now.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, I get to go have the collagen protein oats that I really like. Like I
Right.
just everything.
And is that always the way you felt about food?
No. I mean, I always like enjoyed eating and love eating. But I wouldn't say I looked forward to it as much as just not having to we're not having to think through all the things and already having a plan for the day. It's like I look forward to it because I'm not stressed about what I'm eating.
Yeah.
Love it.
What about you, Em?
My favorite thing to eat?
During the day, like
That
you
eat
don't
every
have a
day.
normal. Emily doesn't eat the same thing every day. Emily eats whatever I pack for her lunch. So
Yeah. True story.
that's true.
I
And my
also like
Bradley
doing
is
a
my
little-
plan and execute strategy. He
I
packs my
plan-
lunch for me.
That's what I do for Jared. Jared likes his meals prepped for the week, so he gets his 4 prepped meals with chicken thighs,
nice
rice,
job, Claire.
and greens.
Such a
Not
good
for me.
wife.
All right, y'all. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe. 5 stars only.
4-sentence review gets a
4-sentence review gets a free fit aid. We also have the 0-calorie fit aids, which I've become accustomed to. They are 1 carb, 9 calories. I don't know how that works. That math doesn't work out for me.
1 carb, 9 calories. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So,
Net carbs, maybe. Is there fiber in fit aids?
yeah, but there should still, if there's only
It's
one.
sugar alcohols. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
that's what it's
They're
gotta be,
removing sugar
so.
alcohols from the calories.
All
Sorry,
right.
that's us nerding out real quick.
Yeah. All right, y'all. We appreciate it. Peace.
Bye.